Hi everyone, my name is Matthew Moniz, and this is the Samsung Galaxy Note 7, a big phone that's part of a lineup of phones that we once considered way too big to use. Well, here we are 6 years later with the most beautiful phone on the market today and Samsung's best design. However, it doesn't come cheap at $850 US or over $1,000 Canadian. So is it worth it? Let's find out. Let's start with my favorite thing about this phone, and that's the design. This is hands down the most beautiful phone I've ever seen, and more importantly, held in my hand. Sure, you can make arguments that it looks like the S6 Edge Plus or S7 Edge, but once you pick it up, you realize that the beauty is in the little details. For one, the Edge doesn't feel as uncomfortable in your hand as the S6 Edge Plus or even the S7 Edge. The screen on the Note 7 doesn't bleed all the way into the side, with the sides rounded out, making it a lot more comfortable to hold. Combine this with a curved back and it feels like you're holding a phone that's 5.3 inches. However, for those that need the extra grip and want to add some style, you can always slap on a D-brand skin like this one. Now, one of my biggest complaints about the S6 Edge and S7 Edge has always been how awkward it is to hold and terrible to type on. Palm rejection is hit or miss, and your fingers had to focus harder to put a word together. Every time I switched to a flat screen, my fingers would have multiple orgasms. Well, the good news is the Note 7 manages to keep an edge all while making it feel like you're typing on a flat screen. The screen is still the same size at 5.7 inches, which is only slightly bigger than the S7 Edge, but it still manages to feel almost the same size. It's amazing to think that Samsung once produced cheap plastic phones as their flagship devices, because now they create the most beautiful hardware on the market. The Note 7 is waterproof, which is a first for the Note line, and unlike the S7, it switched from using a micro USB port to the new USB Type-C standard. Now, we still have the traditional fingerprint scanner, which works extremely well, but Samsung has also added a new type of authentication with the addition of an iris scanner. In short, you can unlock the phone with your eyes. Most reviews are calling this a party trick, and to an extent I agree. Right now it takes longer to use your eyes to log in than your finger because you have to press the home button, swipe the screen up, make sure your eyes are a certain distance to the scanner, and then log in. Whereas the fingerprint scanner, all you have to do is press the physical home button. However, for being a first on an Android phone, it works very well. For one, I found it to be quite accurate, it works with sunglasses, and it's pretty quick to scan your eyes and log you in. Give the iris scanner another year or two and it will be perfected. Combine the beautiful hardware with a gorgeous display and you have a recipe for a killer phone. The Super AMOLED display is still as beautiful as ever, the color reproduction looks similar to that of the S7, but it gets significantly brighter. In fact, it's the brightest display I've ever used on a smartphone to date. According to DisplayMate, the Note 7's display is capable of reaching 1048 nits of brightness and has broken display records for smartphones. One thing's for sure is that being able to see your screen outside on a sunny day is no longer an issue. The always-on display that debuted with the S7 is still present, but has received an upgrade with the latest version of TouchWiz. It's become a lot more useful and now shows icons from all your notifications, along with music controls if you're listening to music. But what really makes the Note unique from all the big phones is the S Pen. Now, I know it's a fact that most people don't use theirs, but the ones who do swear by it. As for me personally, I barely use it, but I love the security of having it on me when I do actually need it. One thing's for sure, Samsung continues to increasingly make it better. There's now 4,096 levels of sensitivity. That's insane. That's 4 times the pressure sensitivity of the Apple Pencil and Surface Pro 4 pen. All this on a 5.7-inch screen. You can notice the difference too, it feels a lot more natural when you write. It almost feels like you're writing on paper. Oh, and for those of you wondering, you can no longer insert the S Pen backwards. The stylus comes with some new tricks up its sleeves, and my favorite has to be the ability to create GIFs by simply drawing a square around the video. It records up to 15 seconds, then you can share it on your favorite social media network. All the other cool stuff is still there, like multiple screen captures, select to translate, and magnification. These features tie nicely into a more refined version of TouchWiz. The Note 7 is obviously running the latest version of it, and there's visual changes that can be seen right away. Colors are lighter, the quick settings menu offers more options, and the settings menu has been cleaned up by consolidating similar items together. The new version doesn't make it feel any faster than my Galaxy S7 Edge, but it's nice to know that Samsung is focusing on a more tidy version of TouchWiz. Now, the internals are the exact same as the S7. Depending if you live in the US or worldwide, you're going to be using a phone with a Snapdragon 820 processor or Exynos 8890. Benchmarks aside, both of these processors perform really well. I know some people are disappointed that the Note 7 didn't get the new Snapdragon 821, but to be honest, even if it did, I highly doubt you would notice a speed difference. Everything ran just as fast and fluid as the S7. However, for those of you worried about the dreaded Samsung lag, I plan on revisiting this phone 6 to 8 months down the road to see how it holds up. Speaking of which, you can hold up to 256 gigabytes of external storage with a micro SD card, which is a nice treat considering the default internal storage size is 64 gigabytes. That's 32 more than the S7. With all this storage, you have plenty of room to snap as many photos as you'd like. Now, I'm not going to talk about the camera too much since it has the exact same 12 megapixel shooter as the S7. However, the Note 7 has new camera software that cleans up the interface, making it a lot easier to use. You can use gestures along with the heart rate monitor to snap photos. But know this, it's still arguably the best camera you can get on a phone right now. If you want to see camera samples and a more extensive review, check out my review on the S7. I'll place a link in the description down below. Okay, so here's a quick recap of the good stuff. The design is exceptional. This is the best looking phone on the market right now. It's also the first Note to receive waterproofing and to be the first Android phone with an iris scanner. The stylus has never been better, offering a much improved writing experience that actually kind of feels like you're writing on paper. The Super AMOLED display is Samsung's best, breaking new records such as reaching over 1000 nits of brightness. The camera, a 12 megapixel shooter, may be the same as the Galaxy S7, but it's still the best smartphone camera on the market today. And last, there's 64 gigabytes of internal storage and micro SD card expansion. So you're probably thinking, this is the perfect phone. Well, not quite. There's two things I don't like. And the first is the battery life. Inside is a non-removable 3500 milliamp battery, which is smaller than the 3600 one inside the S7 Edge. When I first set up the phone, I was averaging 2.5 hours of screen on time, which is terrible. I would only make it to 3 p.m. before needing a charge. With the results being this poor, I decided to factory reset and wipe the cache in case any apps or system settings were running rogue in the background. With that being said, the battery life did improve and I started to net closer to 3 hours of screen on time. In comparison, I get 3.5 to 4 hours with the S7 Edge. Sure, it has fast charging and fast wireless charging, but a good phone should last the entire day. Second is bloatware and duplicate apps. For Canadians, it's not so bad. For example, I'm with TELUS and the only apps they pre-install is Amazon and their billing app. For Americans, I hear it's a lot worse depending on the carrier. To go along with that bloatware is duplicate apps. Samsung has organized its apps into one folder, but there's still a lot of redundancy like 2 web browsers, 2 email apps, and 2 voice assistants. It just adds a layer of confusion, especially for new users. Okay, so here's my closing thoughts. The Note 7 is part of a lineup of phones that was once laughed at for being too big to use and too big to hold. Now we are here 6 years later with the most beautiful phone that Samsung has ever created. They've managed to take a big idea and transform it into something that's easy to hold and comfortable to use. It's now waterproof, has external storage, and has the best display on a smartphone to date. The camera takes fantastic photos, and the S Pen offers a lot of great features, especially for business professionals. However, the battery life could be better, and bloatware, as annoying as it is, can be tucked away or disabled. The Note 7 is definitely my favorite Android smartphone of 2016 so far. But I want to ask you guys something. Android phones are getting better and cheaper, so do you see true value in spending double the money on the Galaxy Note 7 over something that costs half the price but has similar specs like the OnePlus 3 or ZTE Axon 7? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I definitely want to hear what you have to say. So that wraps up my review of the Samsung Galaxy Note 7. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And as always, I will see you in the next video.